Alright, I'm filming this at the end of April, which means it's getting close to driven, and that means it's time to get some work done on the cars. Specifically today, it's the S15's turn because I have some new parts to go in and prep for the show, and most of them are actually centered around this. They're to do with the interior and specifically the rear seat. So, in case you missed the posts and videos from last year, long story short, the rear seats in these things are useless, so removed them, put in the miracle crossbars, and then instead of just having a gutted back half, I went and made up a pretty simple little seat delete just to close it off. Now, don't get me wrong, I am very happy with this. I am very pleased with how this turned out, but with the car sitting in the garage all winter, gave me plenty of time to look at it and look at this specifically, and I can do better. So let's do better. It's time to improve this a little bit. So I spent the off season scheming, planning, working out how I'm going to address this in my head, and now that the show is coming, it's time to get to work. So today I am focusing on getting all this out of the way because once again all this has to come back out, the bars, the delete, the side panels, etc., in order to start to upgrade the seat delete. And so that is what I'm doing. I've got the car starting to be stripped down here. Please ignore the mess of detailing supplies and things in the trunk, but the trunk is fully bare, as you can see. Getting ready to pull the delete out next, then the bars, and then the OEM paneling in there. And the first install is actually going to be a new rear strut bar. So, Cusco rear bar. This will fit between the rear shock towers and drop down below the rear deck. You can get rear bars that go above or below. I did the latter. This will go below because this is going to actually play into the back panel for the seat delete. You'll see where I'm going with this in due time. So I'm going to film what I can, photograph what I can. I have pretty clear plans already laid out for how I will approach this, but as always there's a little bit of improvisation at play, let's call it that, of once we're actually in here and looking at all the mounting points and how things fit together, there might be some slight changes to the plans, but the basic idea is just to build a back panel to seal off the car for road noise and things, get rid of the sound of stones pinging up in the rear wheel wells from transferring into the cabin. But I'm not going to do just a solid back panel. I have some ideas to play with the pass-through you see here and show off that strut bar I showed you a second ago. So I think that's all there is to say, really. Rear seat delete improvement. Time is not in huge supply right now, given how close it is to the show, so let's put the camera down and get back to it. Alright, update time. Original seat delete has been removed, as has the crossbar and various other pieces. So if we come in here, just kick off my sandals, you'll notice it's looking a fair bit more stripped. So that side panel's still in, that can probably stay in, honestly. The other side is going to go back in shortly, but the parcel shelf is gone, as is the trim around the opening in the bulkhead, and it's time to get to measuring. So the panel itself will fit in the middle here, of course. The big question was just how is it going to mount. The bolt holes here for the clips for the upper seat back were what I was intending to use to actually fasten the top of the delete, and it looks like those will work. I just need to measure the threads and get some longer bolts to then run through the panel and tie into those. And then I do have some more down here I might be able to use if I make a bracket running off the bottom of the delete down to that hole. I'm not sure yet. I will see basically how well the top ones hold it in place. But there's also, as one of my ideas this year, I did have some extenders that I picked up from Ken, extenders for the damping adjustments on the coilovers, because getting back here to adjust this, especially the bars in place, is a huge hassle. So those will run out. Normally people would pop them through the parcel shelf, but I don't really want to cut into that, and given that the metal actually falls down here and the parcel shelf will sit on top, that gives a nice handy little pocket for the extenders to poke through and I'm picturing them coming out through the seat delete panel. So that is looking promising. And then, yeah, it's pretty much time now just to pop this panel back in so that I have this edge to work off of, measure what I need in the middle, and start on the template for this before I actually cut the real piece. Alright, we're back at this one today. I'm picking up this video a couple of days after the last clips. You wouldn't believe it, but we're actually under snow for the last couple of days, so it's now gone. It's now a nice sunny day again. I can carry on in the garage, and this is where it currently stands. So, I've got the initial draft, we'll call it, of the wooden backboard in place. I'm going to do some more tweaking just to close up some of the gaps and then cut a second piece as the final copy. But you'll see I've also got a couple of bungee cords in place just to approximate the miracle bars so that I can get a better idea of what this will look like and start to map out the next step of this. So if I was going for just a solid plain backboard, this would pretty much be there. But I've got something else in mind, and now is the time to see what it'll look like in person. But everything else is working well. This is currently held in with just the two factory mounting points, and it's pretty secure. The back, or the bottom, sorry, is still loose and can flex if I pull on it, but those two are supporting the weight just fine, which is good news. I have had hardware in my box of spares that fits, and some of my extra Downstar washers fit as well, so I've got hardware sorted, and now it's time to, I think, get the saw back out and cut some more out. Alright, you'll have to forgive me, but I basically just got stuck in and kept on working all day long, so I didn't really film any updates, but it's the end of another day now, so I might as well show where we are. And you can see where the craziness of this idea is starting to come in. So the corner there you'll see is cut out. That's going to be a removable section so I can reach in and adjust the dampers if I have to. So still revising the shape of it, but just a little piece that'll Velcro in, cover up the hole when I don't need it, and then give me quick and easy access to adjust the suspension. But this is kind of the feature of the rear seat delete, if you want to call it that. So the rear strut bar, the Cusco bar, which runs below the rear parcel shelf and would be hidden, is going to be framed in a little almost display case type deal. So I'm still working on some of the details of it. This is the rough framework for it. It's going to look a lot better once it's actually upholstered and put together properly. This is just a quickly screwed together, almost proof of concept, but that is in, that's looking good. This is also not fully bolted in, so the fit is not perfect, although I am going to revise it a little bit for the final piece. And yeah, this is more or less just a proof of concept of the idea I had. I like how it looks, and now, once I cut out what will be the final pieces with their subtle tweaks and fitment adjustments and so forth and have them upholstered, it should look pretty good. So, it may still look a little strange now. Have faith. I know what I'm doing. Hope you guys like this when it's done. Alright, I'm going to get a quick update before I carry on and upholster this, but this is the final copy of the rear panel. It's in place now for its final test fit. I just finished cutting the little access holes in either corner for the damping adjustment. Double check that everything is tight against the panels and level and even and so forth, and now I think I'm ready to give it a wipe down and get the upholstery on it. Here we go. Alright, it's a new day once again, so we're cutting ahead a little bit here. Spent the weekend so far working on finishing up the little trunk display area, which is pretty much ready to go now. There's some light leaking through. You'll see this is not all bolted in yet, so gaps are still a little bit loose, but this has been built. This is the final copy of it now. All the edges are nice and tight. The openings have been cut for the strut bar there, as you can see. And today's task is to get this upholstered to match the main panel. So hopefully this will look pretty seamless. You will notice there are a couple of little cuts in the corners just to clear some of the metal work of the car. I'm going to keep, because the fabric itself is stretchy, I'm going to just keep the fabric covering that loose so that it can slightly move out of the way, because that is not a very big protrusion. To plate that off with some angled pieces would take up way more space than just a little bit of material moving a millimeter or two out of the way to clear that. So that will be done. Similar case on that side. That's just the metal of the bulkhead opening in the car. But otherwise, the back panel is bolted in now. I've got the new hardware right there. Time to get the trunk piece back out, get it dusted off, cleaned up, and start upholstering it. All right, we're presently a couple of days away from driven at this point. I believe the last update I had shown that the rear panel was upholstered and pretty much ready to go in for good. Since then, as the photos on the site will show, some progress has been made. The acrylic window is in place, the display case has been upholstered and installed as well. Miracle bars are back in, and now I am working on the bottom of the seat delete. So this is the existing panel I had from last year. I just need to trim a little bit off of the back of it now to account for the extra width of the back panel being in place so that it still sits where it should. And then after that, I have some little corner pieces to cut out just to fill in the area behind the legs of the Miracle Bar. So I have the measurements noted now of what I need to trim on the back of this. I'm about to pull it out of the car, take the old upholstery off, trim it down, and then reupholster it with the new material to match the rest of this. So time is definitely at a premium now, but we're getting there. So put the camera down and get to work redoing that. Alright, it's after driven, and it's definitely time that I wrap up the video on this little project. So it did end up being done in time for the deadline. I did make it. It was pretty close, as is always the case, but it is complete. So it's time to show you guys the finished product. So as you have seen over the course of this video, new back panel, original bottom panel reupholstered, new cover plates to frame the legs of the crossbar, and the little access panels either corner to access the dampers and make it easier to adjust them. And then of course, the probably wildest part of this is the little acrylic display case with the Cusco bar in the back of it. I've actually got the trunk open right now because where the trunk light is positioned, it serves to illuminate this case as well, not just the LEDs that I installed. So this is it. I am very, very pleased with how this turned out, to say the least. It's been receiving a ton of great feedback. I love how tight everything fits. Oh, it's a little, sorry, it's a little dirty. I've been driving with the windows down following the shows and events. But yes, I am very pleased with how it turned out. It's not 100% done, I'll call it. There's a couple final little touches I want to do. Notably, I want to get some new hardware from Downstar to replace the temporary stuff you see there. There was no way I could ship some in time for the show, so I've made do. I also need to find some little OEM plugs or something to cover up the lower holes there, but that's pretty much it. I'm very pleased with it. The LEDs work phenomenally well for indoor shows. Outdoor events, they're not quite bright enough to really be as noticeable as I'd want, so I might look into changing those out for something brighter. Who knows? Regardless, for indoor events, it does work fantastic. And yeah, everything fits perfectly. No squeaks, no rattles, just like before. It's all easily removable. 2 bolts there, and then the bottom of the back panel velcros in. Same story here. There's 2 bolts, one either side, and then it velcros in on the hump just as it did previously. Same with these. These are actually just velcroed in, then they come up, come off of the legs, and can be set aside. And yeah, and then might as well show you guys if I can kind of brace myself and reach in here. So I had been earlier in the video discussing having the damper extenders come out through the rear bulkhead. It ultimately wasn't a feasible idea, so the next solution, which I actually prefer now that I'm looking at the finished product, was to make these, and I'm watching the camera here to make sure it's focusing. These just pressure fit in. They come right out. That's it. Little plugs, and then I can, if I set this down carefully, can reach in there, adjust the dampers, and pop the cover back in and go on my way. So that is a solution that I am very proud of. No tools needed. I can, in a matter of seconds, pop those out, adjust the dampers, put them back in, and go. Because before it was such a nuisance to have to change the damping settings in the back, having to pull off the upper parcel shelf, which is inevitably just going to break all the clips and possibly crease the parcel shelf itself, so I didn't want to keep doing that. Those come out as easy as you just saw. Spin the knob, pop them back in, and done. And you'll notice that yes, they are different colors on the two sides. I did a blue and chalk on this side with a pink and chalk on the driver's side, which, while not the same shade, does keep in line with the horn button, which is up there. I should have had the wheel on for that shot, and the Yashio shift knob. So kind of keeps the theme of pink and blue being the accent colors. And that's also why I want to get some new hardware, put probably a pink washer on that side and then blue washer on that side as I have now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is more or less the interior, I think, as I want it now. I do still have some OEM parts that I want to replace. The lower dashboard on this side is a little tired looking. There's some marks and scratches from the past 22 years now, so hopefully I can source a new one or near new one there. I do still need to change out the steering wheel because it has the wrong stitching color. And I don't know, Nismo cigarette lighter kill switch would be pretty cool, but those are worth way too much money now, so who knows what I'll put there. But yeah, I think the interior now is mainly just a case of cleaning it up further if I can find more new OEM parts. I mean, to find everything brand new would be the dream, but I don't think that's really possible anymore, so I'll keep on the hunt for factory parts. And apart from the steering wheel having to go, I think this is more or less how I see it staying for the next while with regards to modifications. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what you guys think of this. It's definitely a little bit wilder than I think some expected, and something a bit different, but I adore this. I love how it turned out, and it's been getting some phenomenal feedback so far from S15 owners and other enthusiasts alike. So as always, I will have all of the detailed photos on the blog with more information showing the behind the scenes of all this. It's always easier for me just to grab pictures as I go instead of stopping to film, so the blog posts always have more detail than the videos. And yeah, if you have any questions, put them down below. I'll get back to them. I did save final templates of this panel, and I should have some of this as well, so some people have already expressed a little bit of interest in these things. Maybe we can offer them, or at least offer the templates. I don't know yet, but I did save them, so it's always a possibility. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. The custom rear seat delete with the Miracle bars and the acrylic window for the Cusco bar. Something a little bit different, but I like it. Anyway, thank you all for watching and reading and following as always, and until next time, have a good one.